Economic analysis. A good management consists primarily of making wise decisions. Wise decisions in turn involves making choices between alternatives. Engineering considerations determine the possibility of a project being carried out and point out the alternative ways in which the project can be handled. Economic considerations also largely determine a project's desirability and dictate how it should be carried out. A feasibility study determines either the which or whether of the proposed project should be applied, which way to do it, and whether to do it at all or not do it. A well conducted economic analysis should show that a project is in line with the development context of the borrowing country. There is a strong relationship for the public sector, and selected projects represent the most efficient, cost, and least cost options among all the feasible alternatives for achieving the intended project details and project benefits. And when the benefit can be valued, it will generate a positive economic net present value using minimum required economic internal rate of return as the discount rate. The project has an EIRR higher than the discount rate. In an engineering sense, feasibility means that the project being considered is technically possible. Economic feasibility, in addition to acknowledging the technological possibility of a project, further implies that it can be justified on an economic basis as well. Economic feasibility measures the overall desirability of the project. Economic analysis has two factors. One is validating the economic rationale, and validation of economic rationale comes from analysis of the project in macro context. The analysis project as far as sector is concerned. Sector analysis also involves the examination of current and future demand, existing sources of supply, their cost, and intended investment that may compete with the project, the contribution of the proposed projects or sector demand, cost reduction, or technological innovations, the context of direct government involvement in the sector, either as a producer or financier, and any government subsidy to or taxation of the sector, whether the additional payment system or physical system embodied in the project under consideration is best solution to the project at the hand. Identifying the rationale for the public involvement. The public support can be a very good basis for project success. It should be set as a part of initial assessment of a project. A clear economic rationale for public sector involvement helps us to narrow the range of alternative ways of addressing development problem. Public intervention is justified when a market must fail to deliver goods and services efficiently. Market failures can arise from various factors such as increasing returns to scale, externalities, asymmetric information, unspecified property rights, coordinating failures, and specific characteristics of certain public goods that make their use non-rival and non-excludable. The second basis is project economic analysis. As a part of project preparation or feasibility study, the demand analysis establishes the existing and future consumer goods and their demand and services to be produced by the project and provides a basis for estimating the project's economic benefits. A project that fails to attract an adequate level of demand for its output at an appropriate price will not be operating efficiently and will create a misuse of scarce resources. Market research and service user surveys can be used to estimate demand at a different price levels. Project demand should be assessed in the context of likely total future demand for and supply of the product to establish how far the project will take market share from existing producers and whether its output will have an impact on the market price. Decisions on project scale should allow for the impact of proposed tariffs on the level of timing of project demand. Alternative analysis economic efficiency requires that the proposed project represents the most efficient options among available feasible alternatives for addressing the identified problem. In many cases, this means that the selected project should have the lowest distribution cost per unit of output or outcome. However, when project alternatives have very different benefit flows because of quality differences, alternative analysis cannot be based on the cost comparison alone. And the most efficient project option is one with the highest ENPV, provided that its investment is within the budget. In some cases, alternative analysis may be supplemented by multi-criteria analysis depending upon the data available. Cost benefit analysis helps in estimating the economic benefits and costs associated with the proposed project. It requires establishing the project with project scenarios and comparing the two. The scenario without the project and the scenario with the project. Analysis is necessary in business terms, as there may be instances where the current position is untenable and some steps towards mitigation are needed even without the proposed project. Monetary values of the project benefits and costs associated with outputs and inputs must be identified in the years in which they arise. Any external effect affecting the rest of the economy but not reflected in market transactions by the project itself, such as adverse or beneficial environmental impacts where they can be identified, must also be included. Sustainability analysis economic viability requires that a project is designed such that its net economic benefits are sustained during the project's economic life. This includes demonstration of financial and institutional sustainability of the project. Assessing the financial sustainability required two types of analysis: financial evaluation of the project and financial analysis of the project executing or implementing entity. The former focuses on the ability of the project to generate sufficient incremental cash flows to cover its financial cost. In this regard, analysis of cost recovery objectives and the mechanics of the project is important. Without full cost recovery, a financial evaluation will be meaningless. In case full cost is recovered, the financial net present value discounted at the project's weighted average cost of capital must be greater than zero, and the financial internal rate of return must be greater than WACC or weighted average cost of capital. Financial analysis of the project executing and or implementing entity aims to evaluate whether the concerned entity is financially robust enough to undertake the project and operate and maintain the project assets. This involves assessing the ability of the entity to operate as a going concern, to operate and maintain the entire network of assets, including the project, and to fund recurrent costs. The institutional capacity of the project operating entity to implement the project should be assessed. To address the macroeconomic concerns, a project should pay the full cost for its use of natural environmental sources, and where this causes long-term environmental damage must be required to undertake appropriate expenditure for mitigation. Similarly, the environmental benefits created by the project needs to be valued and included in the project economic analysis. A project can also be affected by the environmental effects, so the climate proofing issues must be considered in the project design to minimize the negative impact or the long-term macroeconomic effects. A project cannot be designed in isolation from the rest of the economy. It must be relevant with the country and the ADB objectives. It should be linked to country's broader development objectives. The country's resource position must be carefully assessed. Macroeconomic factors that may affect project performance should be identified and assessed. The identification of factors most likely to influence the target sectors. Sector analysis is actually a key area to be discussed over here. The key problems in the sector, the issue that needs to be addressed within the sector, the policy and regulatory environment of the sector, who supplies what and under what constraints do they supply the items, who are the financiers, who can pay for the goods or services, or who would pay for the goods and services, the role of public within the project and the role of private sector for the project, identification of possible areas of investment and identification of areas where the policies can be reformed is necessary. Demand analysis we have discussed earlier also, so I would not go into much details. Project design should be demand driven. Demand should be considered only after identifying the shifting factors. Cost analysis, alternative and least cost analysis is one of the areas of key interest. The most efficient way of addressing the problem at hand is to evaluate alternative project designs in terms of lending modalities, financial arrangements, scale and timing locations. Why propose alternatives chosen? The valuation of benefit and cost is basically the total cost incurred in the project and the total values or benefits derived from the project. This is more or less similar to the cost incurred and utility derived for any item purchased by any consumer under the sun. So, how much the project owners are going to invest in the project and what are the benefits? Financial benefits, social benefits, and societal benefits or economic benefits are the key areas of concern over here. So, economic viability is going to be established only when the benefits are greater than the cost. Sustainability is the area which we need to be constantly aware of because anything which is short term is not going to be able to provide the benefits to the society for a larger in a larger perspective. So if a project is financially and sustainable and the institution is also sustainable, then it is going to be able to provide larger benefits to the society and the country or the economy. And whenever the benefits are spanned over a long time period, then the projects are considered more appropriate. Distribution analysis also we have discussed earlier, so will not delve deep into it. Basically, it is about the various stakeholders or partners in the business. So, the total benefits derived from the project, who is getting how many benefits, what are the groups that are stand to gain something from the project, or if there is any group which stands to lose something, that should also be identified. The size or quantification of gains and losses is necessary. The likely impact of the project and sustainability of the project are the areas. Sensitivity and risk analysis is a part wherein we actually try to see how the returns of the projects are able to be affected by the changes in the environment or the total business scenario. So, identification of variables to which the project is going to be sensitive. The changes in those variables, changes in the parameters, changes is going to change the project decisions also. Monitoring of the project ensures that yes, the project is going to keep on working the way it was established to work for. So, key variable identification is necessary. Then a system needs to be installed, and then finally the overall assessment. Is project relevant for the country or the sector? Has it rational for the public sector interventions or not? Does project incorporate best alternative designs? Is project economically sound or not? Is project feasible or sustainable or